This is TLV1.
The Tel Aviv Review.
Hello and welcome to this very special episode of the Tel Aviv Review. It's special because it's the first episode out of more than 500 that I'm not recording sitting down in our studio or in someone's office. I'm actually walking down the aisles of the gigantic archive of YIVO, the Institute for Jewish Research in New York City, together with Dr. Stephanie Halpern, the acting director of the archive, and Leo Greenbaum, an accessioning archivist and a Bund archivist here at YIVO as well. Hello to you two.
Hi.
Hello.
So we need to start with a bit of an introduction about what is it here in the YIVO archive and, what is really the mandate of YIVO and its archive?
Sure. So YIVO was started in 1925 in Vilna, which was then Poland. And the idea really was to be able to study Yiddish history, language, literature, and culture in a systematic way. And part of that was collecting the stuff of everyday Jewish life, of folklore, of the history, of the customs. So that's the way YIVO started out. And it remained in Poland, in Vilna, until World War II, when its life in Eastern Europe was cut short by the Holocaust. Many of its holdings were looted by the Nazis. And some of them did make their way to New York. And so YIVO, Vilna's pre-war holdings, constitute a small section, about
it's still enormous.
It's
regardless.
Still enormous. It's over 1 million pages worth of archival documents. But, today, the YIVO Archives has 23 million records and over 400,000 books in YIVO
Yeah, it's not
library.
just documents. It's many other things as well.
It is many other things as well. So we have paintings, we have objects, we have...
Theater, even collection of underwear from the Lower East Side. So it is in fact has an anthropological aspect to the collection.
So would you say that anything that is historical and Jewish finds its way to the YIVO archive?
Yeah, our scope is broad. We specialize though in Eastern and Central Europe, but we have Oriental Jewish material, we have material in Israel, and it's mandatory Palestine. So it covers the entire world, basically, of Jewish life.
How did such an enormous collection make its way from Europe to America on the eve of the war when people were really struggling to save their lives?
So, like I said, the small amount that we still have from our pre-war holdings made their way sort of in a variety of different ways, but much of it was saved by the Paper Brigade, right? A group of people who were able to smuggle materials and hide them in different places in the Vilna ghetto. The YIVO building the original YIVO building happened to be right outside the Vilna ghetto. And when YIVO was established in 1940 in New York, knowing that the future of YIVO in Vilna was limited, they started actively collecting as much as possible. And we still actively collect. Today we get, Leo? A couple collections in, probably.
A week, yes. We get an average of 2 collections a day sometimes.
What kind of collections?
About 120 donations of various size.
Well, just
every
individuals
6 months.
bringing in personal collections?
We at present we don't actively solicit. We don't have a program to collect. We used to have in the past. So they vary in size for a single object to thousands of pages of documents. So that's a very wide scope.
How do people know to come to you?
Well, besides the obvious website situation, they know from our literature and, and I guess we could improve our publicity. That's what you're helping us with, So... and I have had, in my experience, explained to people where I work, yes.
But how is it not spread over, mid-sized archives around the world?
Archives. Well, I think that YIVO for a very long time was the only place, and it still is the only place to send materials like this. People who knew about YIVO in Vilna and people who knew about what YIVO was doing, here in New York, just in the immediate years after the war, knew that this was the place to send anything that had to do with Eastern European Jewish life. And YIVO sent, they did studies. They had many publications for a long time, research. So YIVO was getting this stuff out there for people, for Jews to read, to learn about themselves, to learn about their culture. And YIVO was able to raise Yiddish culture and Yiddish history and language and literature to a different place.
Just to stress, we were really literally the first, as far as I know, the first organization to collect materials on the Holocaust, because YIVO was based in Eastern Europe. People who, most of whom did not survive, were collecting documents and managed to hide, as Dr. Halpern mentioned, managed to hide also Holocaust documents pertaining to the Holocaust. And since then, of course, we were accumulating more. We have an extensive collection of testimonies and also some Nazi documents.
Have you been able to salvage things from Eastern Europe after the war? Is it still like a work in process in terms of what was left there?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have a large-scale digitization project, which we're embarking upon, to process, digitize, and reunite our pre-war holdings. So there was a large amount of material that was recently discovered in Lithuania that actually, had come from YIVO. So the Edward Blank YIVO Vilna Online Collections Project. It's a name. It's a name. We're about halfway through. It's a 7-year, about $6.5 million project. So for the first time ever, since before the war, all of YIVO's pre-war holdings, which are still in existence, will be reunited virtually. And so anyone anywhere in the world can just go online and see sometimes a document that maybe YIVO here in New York had 4 pages of, but another 2 pages were found recently in Lithuania, and now it's the full record.
You said that people still bring stuff over all the time. Do you ever turn anyone away?
Very rarely. I mean, if somebody something yesterday, for instance, we were offered an encyclopedia, I referred it to another place, to a dealer, because we have So that's a dilemma because of space-wise. I was going to mention, because we stress the Jewish aspect, that the Bund Archives, the Jewish labor movement, was founded in 1899 as a central clearinghouse. It was based in Switzerland because the parties in Eastern Europe, especially in Tsarist empires actually, were not legal. So much of the material is here now that pertains also to the Polish and Russian revolutionary parties. So, and we started collecting also since then on American labor movement. So we have this non-Jewish aspect in our collection as well.
Okay, let's start looking at some of the artifacts that you've got you've got here. Not all of them are what you'd expect to find in an archive.
And I'll show you some of my favorite, and I think many of them are actually thanks to Leo that they're here in our archive. So I'm going to show them some of my favorite, Leo,
okay,
and if you have any.
Okay, we're in the art collection.
Yeah, we're in what we call Record Group 101, the Art and Object Collection, and we have everything here. Ritual objects, but also just a whole button collection. So let's see. So this is, I love these here. These are, have you ever seen anything like this, Gilad? It's a small glass cup, basically. And there are, in this box, you can see there are about 20 or 25 of them. And these actually would have been heated up. They're called bankas. They would have been heated up and placed along the back and the arms and the legs of a person. And the idea was to draw out the toxins from your skin. And I think that it's something that's actually popular now again, but people on the Lower East Side would have gone and, to have these bankas placed on them to draw out their illness or, make them feel better. And we have a few sets of bankas, but this one that I've pulled for you is one of my favorites because they're still wrapped in the newspaper that they came in when they came to YIVO in 1979. So while the bankas are from probably the 1910s or 1920s, just the paper themselves is also, this historic artifact. So we can date when they actually came, into the archives.
It's quite remarkable that someone thought about giving a box of bankas to YIVO.
not only one, we have about
Yeah.
4 boxes of bankes. But it is, because again, oftentimes when you think of Jewish life and Jewish culture, you think only of the shul or, the rituals, the holidays. But really, Jewish life was everyday life. And there's so much you can learn, from these objects that you wouldn't otherwise, be exposed to. Let's see. What else? Oh, let me close this. I like to call this Leo's button box. Right, Leo? You love collecting.
Yes.
You love collecting buttons.
Too, of course.
I know.
Anyway, yeah.
So this box is the one with the Hebrew Actors Union pins. So I'm
Oh, okay.
gonna show those. Yeah,
Great.
yeah. This is a box of different pins that we have here, and again, some of these I wish I could wear, on my jean jacket now. But this particular box is filled with mourning pins, not pins you wear in the morning, but pins that you would wear to a funeral. And they all have the pictures, the date of death for a variety of Yiddish actors. They were put out by the Hebrew Actors Union, which was the first theatrical union in existence. And some of them say we mourn the loss of this actor. And the funerals of Yiddish actors and Yiddish writers and cultural figures was really a big deal for Jews here.
Yeah, this one is from 1912, I see.
1912, yeah. We have some from 1909. Jacob Gordon, who was one of the great Yiddish writers, the first Yiddish playwright actually to have his work translated onto Broadway in 1906. So anyway, these pins would have been given out to members of the Hebrew Actors Union who would wear them at the funeral of these writers and actors.
And there's one here that says Nixon in Hebrew and English letters.
There is. I don't know how that made its way into the mourning pin box, but
Yes, but to preserve it, we just stuck it in there
Right.
for temporarily.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe they were mourning the American Republic.
Right. Yeah, so, and I don't know, 30,000, 35,000 people could attend some of these. Jacob P. Adler had about 35,000 people at his funeral. He was one of the great,
star.
Great Yiddish stars. So
Do you know how it got here?
We officially received, this was deposited by the Hebrew Actors Union. They still have, I believe, a building down one block from St. Mark's Place.
they do, yeah.
But they had to clean out their building, basically, so they looked for this was the logical place to preserve this for posterity. There may be still material there inside. Hope thinking of you doing a museum, but has not materialized. So it's a very substantial collection. Some of it is in another room. The
And
paper component.
Right, it includes plays, and biographical information about actors, music, and,
Photographs.
librettos.
Photographs, of course.
Yeah. And we have here at YIVO the most extensive collection of Yiddish theater material, I would say. Thousands and thousands of posters.
That's
Many of
important.
them actually are pre-war. YIVO Vilna had what was called the Esther Rachel Kaminska Yiddish Theater Museum collection, and Yiddish theaters from all over the world. So from South America,
And we have also films taken down by American tourists when they were visiting the old country in the 30s, say. And these films are unique. There's not that much kind of material, so has survived. So we have films like that, by and large silent, but still they're quite unique. And as you see, these are just extras, but we have a vast collection of recordings of all kinds of Jewish music, mostly Yiddish, but also Hebrew,
we have
cantorial, you name it.
Yeah, about 50,000 pieces in our sound archives. So this is the place to go. And many of them are non-commercial, so you can't get them anywhere else. Let me show you one more piece from this section.
Where do you wanna go?
You'll see, Leo.
Okay.
Yeah. Hardly anyone ever gets to see this piece on the bottom shelf here. Yeah, I got it. I'm gonna bring.
Oh, okay.
Leo, you want to explain what it is?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I have to see the label, actually.
It's Liesson, Abraham Liesson.
Abraham Liesson, who was a noted Yiddish poet and editor of the longest-lasting Yiddish literary magazine, The Zukunft, The Future, which lasted over a century, among other things.
But this is
this is Abraham Liesson's death mask.
It's not him in the flesh. It's almost him in the flesh.
Yeah, death mask. It's not a Jewish custom, but was, I guess, as far as I know, but it has been adapted, creating. It's a Eastern European custom, I would suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe not an European custom. I don't know about America. I think America as well. That's another issue. But we have a number of these death masks, yes.
Right, and it was really done oftentimes so that portraits or busts could be made after a person's death. So often you find these death masks of notable individuals or public figures. So as
How many do you
Liesen
have?
was, we have
Mask, I don't have a count. We have, let's say, a dozen more. I don't know.
maybe a dozen or so.
It's
yeah.
not so frequent. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a Jewish custom, generally speaking. So as far as I know,
But there, when you open up the box and you see just this
Startling,
disembodied
that is-
head,
yes,
and you can even see, if you look closely, you can see the wrinkles around the eyes, and I don't know if you see on the side here, but the skin is sort of falling back. It's loose, and that is clear, that he's laying on his back. That this would
After
have
his
been
death,
made
yeah.
after his death. Yeah, you can even see around the eyes the gauze, that would have been put there. So this is a very unique piece here. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So I have to put this back.
you have to put back down.
It's always fun to take these things out, but the most important aspect is putting it back so that it can be found
Correctly.
again.
Yeah, so we can
correctly.
retrieve correctly. So,
Yeah, so record group 207. That's how we
the technical
were able to
term.
keep track of everything, because we give it a record group. So record group 207 is the papers of the Jewish community of Salonika, Greece. Was a very large Jewish population.
Not in Eastern
And-
Europe, though.
Not in Eastern Europe, in
Yeah,
Greece.
no, but
In-
it's so your mandate goes beyond
sure.
Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
as well.
and actually, these papers are largely in Ladino. So we have papers here in 12 or more languages. Basically, any language that Jews would have spoken. Right? It's hard to sort of say only Eastern Europe, because Eastern European Jews spread out everywhere, and so to just limit it to countries in
do you
Eastern
have
Europe.
artifacts from the Middle East?
We do.
We have a Yemenite jewelry. The Jews there had near monopoly of jewelry making in Yemen. So we have a collection of that too. But it is on Jews in China too, but these are European Jews.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So the Jewish community in Salonika was a thriving community until about 1917, when there was this great fire that sort of destroyed the infrastructure of the community itself. And some Jews left because of that. And then in the early 1920s, with sort of Greek nationalism growing, there were anti-Semitic laws that were enacted that caused Jews to also move from Greece. And then, of course, when the Nazis come in 1940, conditions are worsen, and 98% of the Jews
very
of
high
Salonika are murdered in Auschwitz, are deported and murdered in Auschwitz. So there were 21 register books that documented the community of Salonika, the Jewish community of Salonika, written in Ladino, and there are only 3 surviving ones, and they are here at YIVO. So you can see here, it's a large, heavy book that, the spine is this book covers the period 1917 to 1941. And if you open it up, this is backwards. If you open it up, you see that it has the names and ages and other information about individuals, the Jews of Salonika here. And it's, like I said, it's all written in Ladino.
So someone, say, researching into the roots of the family from Greece would find...
May
yeah.
find, if they happen to be in here. But yes, and we get people all the time who are here to do family history and genealogical research. We have about 1,500, Leo, Landsmannschaften collections.
Maybe even more.
Even more. And that's another big source of family history. These
Mutual
immigrant...
benefit societies based on people, which town they came from. And many of them now have closed down. Some exist on internet only, but they originally, besides a social function, they had an insurance function, and this has been supplanted by insurance companies. So they were essentially burial society, but sometimes they provided other insurance functions as well. And they were collecting money too. They would collect money for the old for Israel later on, but also for the hometowns via the United Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, rather. Mm-hmm. And whose archive we have an extensive portion of in YIVO as well. But incidentally,
Yeah.
it's okay.
And the Landsmannschaften, you can always find cemetery plot records in
Yeah,
there
yeah.
because a lot of times they would sell a plot in a much larger group of their landsmen, so you could be buried together. Okay, one more thing up here. Herzl's Theater, Herzl's Diary.
Is it up here?
It's up here. Yep.
Oh, in the
It's up here.
Sutzkever-Kaczerginski.
Yes.
You have remembered the folder number?
I do.
Good.
I do.
I was going to put
Do
this
you
away.
want to
We can do
explain
it
this
later.
collection, Leo, a little bit?
Which one?
The Sutzkever.
Well, Sutzkever collection, Sutzkever-Kaczerginski. Abraham Sutzkever was a leading Yiddish poet. He survived the war, and Shmerka Kaczerginski was another poet who actually, ironically, survived the war, but was killed in an airplane accident later on. So they were instrumental, what you mentioned, the paper brigade. There was no leadership, there were colleagues in there, and so much on material they managed to reach YIVO here by various and sundry ways. So there are two components. One component is the material which is pre-Holocaust. Some of the material belonged to a rabbinical library there also, because the Strashun library, the Soviets who occupied, when Poland was attacked, they occupied Vilnius for about a year or so. They threw in, literally speaking, sort of a lot of Jewish materials from other institutes. So we have, among other things, Herzl Diary came to us from different sources, actually, from his family, but there are other very valuable materials. The second component is records of the Vilna ghetto, not German records, but Jewish records, posters, various things there, including handmade posters. And so
How did they survive?
there's a book about it. I can give you actually a free pamphlet about it. They were a portion was sort of buried in different locations, and a portion was hidden by sympathizer outside the ghetto. A woman named Anna Shimaite, who was sympathetic with Jews. She was active in the Russian Revolutionary Movement. There's a whole book about her in French, in effect. So
And there were different bunkers in various
what
parts
they're
of
called
the
bunkers,
city.
yes.
And, a lot of times these materials would, the paper brigade would have to put it on their person to get it in and out,
smuggle it out, yeah.
to smuggle it out. And so, they were
Risky.
risking their lives every time they try to save a document or to wrap a Torah scroll around their torso. It's a remarkable thing, that they did. So this Theodor Herzl diary, you can see, this handwriting, it's actually, for the most part, written in pencil on, these very small, it's a tiny diary. And it was from 1882 to 1887, I believe he kept this. So really, before Theodor Herzl it's Herzl. This is, just on the cusp of him really starting to formulate some of his ideas. And, part of what we do here is not just keep the materials, not just house them, but we also have to make sure that they're preserved properly. So you can see here with the Herzl diary that there are pages that have been mended by different conservators. So here on this page, for instance, the corner has been ripped off, and age and being, wear make things dirty or moldy, and so they're cleaned.
But
and
it's been kept intact.
It's been kept intact, and you can see it's been put on. This particular page has been put on a backing so that it can be kept intact even longer. And now with our digitization efforts, this will be preserved in digital form for many, many years.
You said, Leo, that it came from a different source to the other artifacts in the collection. Where did it come from?
the artifact, the pre-war component came from various sources, and this, I believe, was purchased from a relative of Herzl before the war. I believe, am I correct? Yes.
I'm not sure about that, but I think what Leo means by different source is that it is part of YIVO's pre-war holding, but it didn't necessarily come.
I was saying that the Soviets brought material into the YIVO, and there was a rabbinic library, Strashun library, and there was also a society for enlighteners, what was called, to translate it into English, a little hard to translate to English precisely. So, so Vilnius was called Jerusalem of Lithuania not for nothing, because there were a number of cultural institutions there, major cultural institutions. So when the Soviets came, they just poured everything into the YIVO building. And now those other institutions don't exist. And in fact, the Strashun family was here, and they visited us. There are some successors in the family living in the United States.
Okay. Shall we go upstairs to the 7?
11?
To
Okay.
7. To 7.
Oh, to 7. Okay,
Yeah,
to down.
7.
Down. in other words.
Downstairs, you're
You
right.
want to put this away first?
No, we'll put it away later.
Okay.
Okay. This I'm gonna put away though,
Okay.
because that we have.
That one we have to climb on.
We need a. Yeah, we need a ladder.
Don't forget your notebook here, or you want to leave it here?
Yeah, I'll leave it in the cart. We're gonna take the cart.
Okay.
I'm always forgetting my notebook, and Leo's always finding it. So Leo knows where everything is in this archive, including
Your notebook.
my notebook. Yeah. So we're now on the 7th floor of our stacks. The 7th floor holds many of our art pieces and thousands and thousands and thousands of posters from the Yiddish theater, from different territorial collections, we have wall newspapers here
A few
in our
posters of the
collection.
Spanish Civil War also from the trade union, CNT, I guess you pronounce the initials in English, and they were, I think, pro-anarchists, not communists, so we have some of these posters. That's from the Bund Archives collection.
And they're all in Yiddish?
No,
Also?
not at all,
No?
not about Spanish. We do have Spanish Civil War collection, which includes some rare Yiddish materials. There was a Jewish brigade, actually a company from Poland primarily, actually from France, Polish Jews, so we have their bulletin here, which is fairly rare, but it's been published.
But no, our posters are in all different languages. Hebrew,
Yeah,
Yiddish,
we have some
Polish,
books in Vietnamese,
Russian,
Japanese, we have
you
books in
know.
Japanese, Vietnamese. Shalom Aleichem we have in Chinese.
We have posters here from Cuba.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Argentina.
Revolutionary Cuba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're lucky to be here today, on this particular day. We had a bit of a small crisis last week, and we were forced to move around some of our materials in the stacks. But because of that, we have something that's amazing that very few people get to see that's out, that we had to pull out. So I'll bring you back here. It's a vitrine that was made for Maury Schwartz. Maury Schwartz was a great theater actress. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And it has paper mache. They sort of look like shrunken heads, almost, of every character from Yosha Kalb, which he put on in 1933. It was a huge production. There were something like 30 or more
Was
different.
written originally by the brother of Isaac Bashevis Singer, was himself a great novelist. And, so
Right.
Israel Joshua Singer, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So this is something that never gets seen, and you can see the hair and the different masks that were worn, the jewelry of the costume. So I'll show you a few other things from the 7th floor. So we have this painting, which when you open it up, it looks to be just the painting of a man, a stately looking gentleman with a tie and glasses. But if you turn it to the back, you see that it's actually.
I think that maybe it's a Nazi leader from Austria. Maybe it says
It is.
Inquart there,
It
I'm
is
not sure.
Seyss. It is Seyss
Yeah.
Inquart. Yeah. So you see that it's actually painted on the back a piece of a Torah scroll. So Seyss Inquart was the 12th Chancellor of Germany. He was
Of Austria.
of Austria. Yes, of Austria. He was the Chancellor for 2 days only before the Anschluss. He was a Nazi, and so this, is just another way to desecrate Jewish life and Jewish culture. I think this is the only one of these that
There
we
are
have.
Nazi objects here, but I think the only one I've seen here, I've seen other things like that in
Yeah.
Israel, but not here.
How did it find its way to
This I know.
Yiddish?
We have some Nazi regalia. Sometimes we got some of this stuff from soldiers who served in American army, and they picked the stuff were lying loose after the war. People, so
Yeah, we have the papers of. I think we got them in not too long ago, of someone who was in the army, and it came in addition to his binoculars and the knife that he used. That the army issued knife. There's also pins and insignia of various Nazi.
both American, we have some Nazi stuff too. You can buy Nazi stuff on eBay, of course, including photographs.
Do
I
you
just
do
checked
that?
recently. No, not our policy to do that.
No, we don't.
Mostly we don't
that.
buy anything. Our policy is to take things. Very rarely we bought anything to accept things. The only thing people can get from us is a thank you letter, which they can use for tax deduction purposes. So, this is going upstairs. I'm sorry.
Okay, so this
Put
is.
it on top. I can
No,
move
let's
this on the
move
bottom
that to the
shelf.
bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. and we'll show this. This is, I think, a very precious,
Oh, this is new.
document that we have here. All of our documents are very precious.
Oh, this is describe the thing. This is new. I didn't see it before.
But this is a book of New Year's greetings that all of the children who were in the Lodz Ghetto school system made to Rumkowski, who was the head of the Judenrat. Now, the Lodz
for
Ghetto
Rosh Hashanah.
for Rosh Hashanah 1941, and Rumkowski was, in many ways, a very controversial figure. He was, he was horrible. But he also created many social programs in the Lodz Ghetto, and so it just so happens that the Lodz Ghetto had one of the largest school systems.
Until, by the way, they had the children's deportation. The Nazi demanded that children be deported. Only so-called productive workers stay. So gradually the ghetto was shrinking. They would deport the elderly people and people who could not physically work. So it essentially became a labor camp. That happened to other ghettos too, including Warsaw.
Right. So this book, which has a wooden cover, it's leather bound. It contains the signatures of the almost 15,000 students and teachers who were part of the Lodz Ghetto schools. And
How many survived?
about 200
Out of
out of
15,000.
15,000. Yeah. So, every single signature in here is sort of the last remaining, piece of this child's life.
So it's
and-
lists upon lists of names and
of
signatures.
names. Yep, and you can see they're numbered, and they're in a variety of languages: Yiddish, Polish, and as you can see here. So this is actually it's a beautiful painting of a sunset and these green
number 9.
grass. Right. This is from school number 9. And Leo, do you want to? Because this one happens to be in Polish. So
Załatwię wszystkie dobrodziejstwa dla nas dzieci. We're thanking you for the good deeds you've done. Życzymy. We wish you, Mr. President. He was called President. This is President Rumkowski of the Jewish Judenrat, his Jewish Council. Oby żył I pracował, że he should labor, work and live na długie lata, for long years. So this is like, they should last a long time, you know what I mean?
right. So this book is full of these greetings. That thank you to our leader for doing all of these things and these paintings.
Do these remarkable objects that you've just shown me ever go on display? I mean, if someone wants to see them.
Oh yeah.
We do. We have exhibitions here of many of our pieces. We often lend things to other museums. So, yeah, I mean, our purpose here at YIVO now is not only to collect, but because collecting without having someone use it is kind of worthless. So we have about 5,000 researchers every year come and use our materials. We have an open access policy. We try to fulfill every research request that we can because, again, it does no good in sitting in an archival box, right? People have to use these materials, write about the history,
What can you tell me about the digitization process of, we're talking about millions upon millions of documents and other artifacts?
First, before anything's digitized, we have to have some kind of control over it, intellectual and physical. So oftentimes we will, reprocess the collection, which takes time. First, it actually goes, every page goes through conservation to make sure that the materials can be handled. And then it goes to
The physical materials.
The physical materials can be handled. And then it goes to our processing archivists who will go through every piece, put them in the proper folders, write a finding aid for it so that the materials can be found by the researchers. And then it gets sent to be digitized, to be scanned. And then there's a whole process on the back end of what happens after digitization. But eventually, these materials are made available online through a search portal where you type in a search term and it will show you every instance, every document that satisfies that search term. So it really is going to revolutionize the way able to access our materials.
But the sheer volume of the material that you have here, do you think it's ever going to, it sounds like a never-ending process?
It is a never-ending process, especially if we keep getting 2 collections in every week or every day. But that's what we have to do. I mean, our duty is to make these materials available to researchers and to preserve them for, the next generation to use. So you can't stop this process.
All right, Stephanie Halpern, Leo Greenbaum, thank you very much for joining me today of this tour of the YIVO archive. Thanks very much.